We're going to move on now to trans rights. There have been many anti-LGBTQ plus bills introduced and enacted, outlawing things like gender-affirming healthcare and banning kids from playing sports. To go deeper into this issue, here with us today is Dylan Mulvaney, who's welcomed us into her live.
Oh, foolish Americans, who have bewitched you? Americans. The people you call progressives are driving you guys to hell, and they just switch to the traffic-free lane. And I promise you, with the way their foot is on the gas, with the way their foot is planted on that gas pedal, you guys will arrive at the depths of hell in less than an hour. And I know, right? I know this sounds like a bit over the top, but the urgency required is not an exaggeration. Guys, I mean, it's all fun and jokes when it's just Tampax, Forbes, and Otter, right? But now the President of the United States, like we say in Nigeria, this one has gone beyond be careful. Oh. The kiss glove is off. You can't, in good faith, sit back and just watch these people destroy your country and destroy your future. And yes, they're trying to destroy your future, knowingly or unknowingly. I believe you already know where I'm going with this, right? But for those who haven't seen it, here is the President of the United States giving an audience and a disturbing interview, to the most beautiful girl in America. I mean, her beauty is so radiant, I almost went blind at first sight. But if you don't believe me, well, just take a good look.
We're going to move on now to trans rights. There have been many anti-LGBTQ plus bills introduced and enacted, outlawing things like gender-affirming healthcare and banning kids from playing sports. To go deeper into this issue, here with us today is Dylan Mulvaney, who's welcomed us into her life by, showing on social media her Girlhood series. Let's take a look.
My name is Dylan Mulvaney. I am a trans woman, and I am documenting my transition publicly on TikTok for the world to see. When people started watching and the numbers kept getting higher, I realized quickly how public my transition would be. Of course, no one should have their lives put in danger because of who they are inside. That's why I'm sharing my story with the world. I'm using my platform to stand up for my community and for any of the little Dylans that deserve a clear path to their true identity.
I think one thing is clear. Right? Joe Biden always goes for the best. And in case the women in America didn't get the message, I'll spell it out for you. Joe Biden believes that Dylan Mulvaney is better than all of you. And he's not alone. Corporate America and the news media agrees with him. You guys want to fight the patriarchy. Well, the patriarchy now has a new identity and a new pronoun and now agrees with you. Now, there is no difference between men and women. Some men have vaginas, some women have penises, right? It's all a social construct created by heterosexual white men. Oh, yes. Now, a woman is someone who identifies as a woman, who is someone who identifies as a woman, who is someone who identifies as a woman, right? Let the cycle of confusion just continue. Congratulations. Now, you even have the President of the United States agreeing with you. Kudos to all the third wave feminists out there. You did it. Now, men and women are so equal, it is difficult to tell them apart. Now, after that powerful introduction of the new face of authentic womanhood, Dylan goes ahead to ask a bunch of really stupid questions. And Americans, see, I mean no offense, but your president gave a really stupid, incoherent, rambling excuse for an answer. And I want you to see if you can make sense of it all. Take a look.
I am extremely privileged to live in a state that allows me access to the resources I need, and that decision is just between me and my doctors. But many states have lawmakers that feel like they can involve themselves in this very personal process. Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming healthcare?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong. That dealt with all gender-affirming capability. I mean, there's a lot of, sometimes they try to block you from. So I feel very, very strongly that that you should have every single solitary right, including use of your gender identity bathrooms in public.
Thank you.
And there you have it. Gender identity bathrooms. Joe Biden 2022. I guess that's a phrase that will live in infamy as the greatest utterance from the sitting president of the United States. So ladies, I know you don't feel safe with the new characters that have been introduced to your private space. But don't be a tough. Don't be a bigot. It's always good to share. You just have to be a big girl about it and allow the bearded girls with Adam's apple to invade your privacy. Why can't you be accepting and inclusive and caring, right? Right? But beyond the incoherent answers, just look at the dishonest way the questions are being presented. Carefully omitting the fact that these psychotic morons want to cut off the healthy breasts of young girls. They also want to toss the penis of teenage boys into the hospital dustbin. Castrate a whole generation, all in the name of gender-affirming care. Right? This medication, like the medication these sick individuals are talking about, is for underage children below the age of 18. I mean, how soulless and demonic possessed can you be that you use experimental drugs on children? So you want parents to sacrifice the sexual organs and the reproductive health of their underage child on the altar of gender identity because you think it's a question of private morality? And speaking of private morality, when was the last time you used that as an excuse? Oh yes, I remember when you wanted to kill babies in their mother's womb. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean manufactured heartbeat by misogynistic white men. I know. Yes, I deserve the criticism. I'm a serious work in progress. It's just hard for my Nigerian brain to keep up with the new ideological madness. I guess I should just keep quiet right now and listen to the disenfranchised minority. Let them educate me. So let's get back to what Dylan was saying.
Thank you. And it feels like Republicans have turned trans and non-binary people into this thing to blame society's downfall on in some ways. And this narrative is not only dangerous to our mental health, but also our physical safety. And particularly trans women of color are being murdered at an alarming rate.
More than any other group of people.
Thank you. How can Democratic leaders be more effective in advocating for us trans people and our families and our lives and our opportunities?
I'm not being facetious when I say this, being seen with people like you. No, I mean it. I genuinely mean it. People fear what they don't know. They fear what they don't know. And when people realize, individuals realize, oh, this is what they're telling me to be frightened of, this is the problem, people change their minds. People just don't know enough to know. And it's not because of intellectual incapability, it's just lack of exposure.
Now, if you are dumb enough to think this isn't political, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, just look at the inflammatory language these men are using to sell this butchering agenda. Trans women of color are being murdered at alarming rates, more than any group of people. I mean, the obvious gaslighting. And sadly, some people are so stupid to fall for this nonsense. Look, Joe the man. This fear is not born out of ignorance. First of all, nothing is scary about an emasculated man kicked in makeup living out a fever dream. Nothing is scary about those people. It's ridiculous and insulting to actual women, but no one is afraid of them. What is scary is where this is headed and the implication it will have on society, and not just Western society, but also the African society. Like, it just came to my notice that there are a handful of Nigerians who are medically transitioning to something other than the way they were born. So you guys in the West should go ahead and give yourself a big round of applause. Congratulations. But what is scary is the confusion this creates. This confusion is dangerous to actual women who will not be able to feel safe in restrooms. They definitely will have opportunities taken away from them by these delusional human beings. What is scary is how lucrative transgenderism can be. It is very lucrative. How we can take the most obscure, mediocre nonentity of a man and make him the woman of the year, dominating spaces and activity that rightfully belong to women. What's scary is the bleak future of this movement. You don't need to be a prophet to see how this will end. This is wickedness on so many levels, a devilish movement against the truth. What is even more satanic is that you want to involve children whose life you desperately want to destroy. You want a 16-year-old to decide if they want their breasts removed? I mean, how many mistakes did I make at the age of 16? Boy, I was on a roll, and thank God I had parents, actual parents, not the pandemic of overgrown babies we now have in society. These incompetent morons can't distinguish between temporary bliss and permanent destruction. Too feeble-minded to see the lies being spread by these trans activists. These kids you are experimenting with are the future of your nation, and you want to castrate your future? Oh, foolish Americans who have bewitched you. This can only be witchcraft and sorcery from a very wicked witch. I mean, who laid a curse on your society that will cause you guys to even consider these things? And Joe Biden, all these and many more are the reasons why sane human beings are afraid of what this movement is proposing. And exposing your people to the gates of hell will not reduce the heat. But I guess I'm interrupting a very meaningful conversation with my transphobia, right? Dylan has more questions for the president, and the president has more words in his brain than he has answers. So I want you to take a look.
And do you have any messages to the families of trans folks that are seeking, options for their children, but are struggling to find resources? Do you have a message to those parents?
Yeah, I do. This is blood of your blood, bone of your bone. And it is, again, speaking to my son, when he spent a year in Iraq, and he was a decorated soldier. He volunteered to go. He had to give up the Attorney General's job and then came back to it. It's just pure hyperbole. And so I just think it's a matter of leaders speaking out and saying, as I told you, I mentioned a young woman who used to be in his staff, used to be in my staff, who is now a state senator. And she's trans, and she's a state senator in the state of Delaware, in an area that was historically very conservative, the part of Delaware.
So it's clear. This is purely political. And Americans, you have to make your voice heard with your votes. That's what it has come down to. And I don't want to interfere in your elections, but I think you should know that those doing this think it's a winning strategy. And it's up to you to prove them right or to prove them wrong. But let me try and make an appeal to you guys, right? Americans, look, you have been a blessing to the world, a huge blessing, a net force for good. You gave us constitutional democracy, women's rights, capitalism, and the universal adult suffrage. You led the way to the global abolition of slavery. And the same time the civil rights law were being enacted was the same time most African countries gained independence from colonial rule. And no, it's not a coincidence. So please, I'm begging you once again, there is a blood-sucking, child-abusing demonic force that wants to invade society, and it is knocking on your door. Please don't open that door. I'm begging you in the name of anything you hold sacred. Please don't open that door. Please don't. Thank you very much.